Well, if you look at exit poll numbers, and just in my own interviews with undecided voters and people who are Trump supporters, a lot of what drove Trump's support was voter anger, especially working class voter anger over inflation, high prices, for which they blamed Kamala Harris personally. They didn't want her back in there. They remember the Trump era, rightly or wrongly, as a time of lower prices, lower inflation, strong paychecks for everybody, and so they voted for Trump in the hopes that he would bring that back. But if you look at what some of Trump is planning to do, the first item on his agenda looks to be extending his 2017 tax cuts and maybe even cutting corporate taxes deeper than he did the first time around, which would be very exciting to his Wall Street contingent, to his billionaire contingent, but it could certainly help exacerbate inflation, as could a steep round of tariffs. So on the one hand, you could satisfy one half of the coalition, but if the cost of that was for prices, inflation, and interest rates to rise again, then a lot of the same working class voters who supported him 2 weeks ago could potentially turn on him and Republicans in the midterm elections and hand power back to the Democrats.
Hey, how much do you think, though, Donald J. Trump thinks about the midterms at this point? All right. I mean, essentially, right? This is his second term. He's a lame duck president. He can do a lot of stuff, and he's got a Congress. But how much do you think he thinks about what happens at midterms versus following through on his mandate?
It's a great question, Carol. It's one I've asked to some people around him, and the truthful answer I got is he doesn't really care at all. What he cares about is his approval rating. He'd like to have a booming stock market the way he did in his first term. And so part of the thinking in Trump world is that even if he did promote someone, a Treasury Secretary, who got behind this tariff regime and things went badly in the economy, if the market were to fall, that might be a kind of disciplining mechanism for Trump to step back a little bit, because he really does view the stock market, the S&P, as a kind of verdict on the success or failure of his presidency. But certainly thinking about the fortunes of congressional Republicans in 2026 is probably not top of mind for Donald Trump right now.
That's interesting to hear. Why do you think that is? Because it sort of does provide, to a certain extent, a check on what he's able to do. Because if he puts policies into place that are unpopular among his base, then he could really pay a price in the midterms.
Yeah, he could. I mean, I've gotten a couple answers from that in my reporting. One is that Trump simply does not believe what most mainstream economists believe, and that is that tariffs are inflationary and the costs will be passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices. I and my Businessweek colleagues got to ask Trump about that for a Businessweek cover interview we did with Donald Trump back in July at Mar-a-Lago, and he simply disagrees. He said, well, if tariffs were inflationary, we would have had inflation during my first presidency when I imposed rounds of tariffs, and we didn't, and therefore it's not going to be a problem. A lot of people around Trump publicly, surrogates, have taken to echoing those points. So as one of my sources pointed out to me in my current Businessweek story, Trump doesn't believe that tariffs are inflationary. Therefore, he's not going to believe it until they're implemented and until we see inflation. So to me, that suggests that we may be in for a rocky ride financially, economically, over the next 4 years if Trump is able to go ahead and do what he says he's going to do.